Very recently on stream, I've been doing some weird platformer streams to get research for my second book, a deep game design dive into jumping. And very recently, I had a chance to play two very odd platformers, and they are giving me a fuel or food for thought for today's topic when it comes to talking about level design and structure. And while these games are 2D platformers, the foundation and philosophies we're going to talk about are relevant to anyone who's building a level. Now, we're going to be switching to that footage very quickly because there's a lot to cover, but to quickly go over some of the topics, a good level must have a sense of place or structure to it, and it must have flow. Now, when it comes to place or structure, what I mean is that there has to be a method to this level's madness, as in, what am I doing in this level? What is the purpose? And every level should have a singular purpose, not 15 to 20 different ones. You see this in a lot of lesser games, especially for a lot of Mario Maker levels, where they will just literally throw everything into a level. We'll have Bowser flying over chain chomps while fireballs are being shot and thumps are coming down, and we're all underwater, and it's nighttime for some reason. But a good level delivers on a singular theory when it comes to its design. What am I being tested on? What is the point of this level? And each level in your game should have a unique element to it. Or if we're talking about, stage 1-1, stage 1-2, 1-3, like that, then that collection can be of its own lesson. The other point about levels having a good pace, meaning that the level needs to have a sense of rhythm to it. It should be easier in the beginning and harder at the end. It shouldn't be hard in the beginning, then easy at the middle, then medium at the end, and then just have a boss fight that's very easy. And when it comes to a good level, again, the flow is very important. And if the level feels like it doesn't really make sense, or that the beginning is harder than the other parts, then people are going to feel very frustrated, or they're going to get through it, and then they're going to be even more angry if they die, because they're going to have to repeat the hard part all over again. But with that said, I want to get into some footage, and for people who watch a stream, you know what's coming. And for the people who are new, get ready. But first, a quick word to our Patreon supporters. And now a quick shout out to our supporters over on patreon.com/gwbeister. So the first footage is from the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends. Gotta make sure that title is all the way there. And this is what you're seeing right now from what's, I guess, quote-unquote, the second level of this game that's aimed at kids. This is basically a collection of some of the hardest platforming examples. We have jumps onto almost character-wide platforms, any miss and you die like that, and this section is a good 5 to 6 minutes long of these kinds of jumps. And I don't think there are any checkpoints as well. If you die, you have to repeat this whole process over again. And the point of why we're bringing up this footage, I'm going to jump forward to another section of this game in a minute, is that first, from a difficulty standpoint or a pacing standpoint, this should not be the second level of your game. And some of the later sections are far easier than this one. From a level design standpoint, this is the bulk of this level. The prelude to this is basically a run through some robotic mice, yes, that's a thing, and then at the end of this part, you have to dodge laser shooting aliens, which again, I don't know why that's in this game. But this whole gauntlet of very tricky jumps is the bulk of this level. And again, there's no real reason why it should be this long. You go up, you go down, and then you repeat it again. And I could actually make the entire video just this one level and just go over it because it's that long. But you can see just how tricky the jumping is. Here's an example of a jump where I have to be jumping just as it's leaving the screen, and hopefully I land on it. Also, the game makes use of, I believe these are local cycles as well for the platform, so you have to hope that you keep track of what cycle is the safe one when you make these leaps. Because if you don't, guess what? You have to repeat the whole thing over again. And again, I like to point out that this is all the second level of this game. Now, to be fair, the game, if we're being generous, is, I think, 8 levels long, I think. I'm miscounting the boss levels as well. So it's not that long in that regard, but when each level is 10 to 15 minutes, well, that certainly adds up. And so right here, you're going to see another little dastardly thing. Those platforms fall. And the only way you know about it is in this section where if you mess up, guess what? You get to repeat the whole thing over again. And I am just very glad here that this platform came back, or probably a controller would have been thrown against the wall. Now, I played Rocky and Bullwinkle as a kid, and I never got past this part. I don't think I even made it this far when I was a child. I just, got pissed off and stopped playing it. But I'm going to fast forward to another section in a second. We're going to see some more level pace issues. So very quickly, this is one of the later levels in the game. This is, I believe, the last level. They actually let you play as Rocky. And the platforming challenges here just tend to go on and on. You're just repeating the same thing of jumping to and fro these skulls. And failure at any point, and you're starting right back at the beginning. Now, there may be checkpoints in between some of these sections, but the problem is that the game does not tell you what they are. So you have no way of knowing if you actually made it, or are you going to repeat the same thing over again. And yes, I had to use save states, because if I didn't, I would be starting this game all the way back at the very beginning, which means doing that platforming cave section that was the basis of the last part. But the problem with Rocky and Bullwinkle from its level design standpoint is that the sections themselves go on for way too long. You're just repeating the same kind of challenges again and again. There's no real sense of pacing to these. These later levels feel a lot easier in a strange sense compared to the earlier levels. And it's not because my skill of the game has gotten better. I think it's just because they're not as difficult. But again, good pacing means that the game should be gradually getting harder. It shouldn't be hard, medium, easy, easy, hard, medium, if you get my point there. But we're going to move forward, and yes, I had to save there just to be on the safe side. But we're going to move over to the second game that, while the level design does get harder for the most part, the problem is that the game lacks any sense of pacing or flow because the levels themselves don't really make all that much sense. Alright, our next game is the Blues Brothers. Yes, there was a video game based off of the movie, which has absolutely nothing to do with said movie, other than featuring these characters. And I'm fairly sure this game was meant to be for another mascot or another character until they got the license. But the Blues Brothers, from a gameplay and just UI standpoint, works. The controls are responsive, the levels feature a lot of variety in terms of their challenges. However, from a level pacing or, again, a mission standpoint or mission statement, it does not work in that regard. There's no sense of rhyme or reason to these levels. One level, we're in this fantasy world where we're jumping on mushrooms, as you can see. Another level, we're going to be in a prison, and I'm going to be kind of fast-forwarding several times through to show off some of these levels. So the lore is that we are trapped in a haunted jukebox, as you saw right there, and we need to get out, which requires us to keep entering the jukebox for some reason. And now, we're riding a giant magical snake that has no real lore as to why it's in this game. He shows up again in a later level, but there's just no sense of a statement or a mission for these levels. Some levels are very long, some are very short. There's a few levels that have you running under like 60 seconds to get to the end. But the problem is that without having that sense of purpose to the level, it all just feels like noise, despite the fact the levels themselves have some interesting designs to them. The game itself has 40 levels total. But again, they feel like they could have just been swapped or moved around interchangeably because there's just nothing that really carries or binds the experience together. When you play through something like Super Mario World, for instance, every level has a mission statement to it. There's that logical sense that the game is getting harder from stage 1 to the end. And you know that there is a logical end to that game. You get to Bowser's Castle, you save the princess, you watch the end screen. In a game like this, it just doesn't feel like that. For instance, the final level of this game, stage 40, there's no end boss. There is nothing in that level that lets you even have an idea that it's the final level of this game. The game just ends. And again, a good video game has a sense of pacing through it from beginning to end. You should feel like there's something special about the end of the game. It should be giving you something new or different. In this game, however, the levels go on. And that's how you can tell when the level design is not on point. When it just feels like things are just going on and on and on. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here, and you're going to see another level. Now, the game does get harder for the most part. More of these spike challenges are introduced. I know Elwood here is super buff. That's because he ate cake, which is another part of this game's lore. But, again, could you really tell that we are further in the game right now? Sometimes the game will switch back to earlier graphics for no reason, other than I think they were just trying to cut down on costs. I'm going to fast forward again. And this is what? Level... Oh, I already passed the screen, but it doesn't matter. Again, there's just no sense of purpose to these levels. Why are they arranged this way? Why am I doing them in this order? Again, I just don't know. Oh, that was stage 25 of 40. I'm going to fast forward again. Here's another level. And again, we're getting some interesting challenges, but I would like to ask everyone a very simple question. Does this look like I'm in a haunted jukebox right now? Because I don't see anything. Yes, there's electricity, but again, why am I here? Oh, he was just dancing, and then I got electrocuted. I'm going to fast forward another time. This is going to be near the very end of the game. And again, the levels themselves, within them, there is a sense of growth and change, and that's good. But when compared to the rest of the game, there's just nothing tying it all together. Even Rocky and Bullwinkle had a mission statement to each one of its 7 stages. Each one was based on a different environment. Each one had different enemies and obstacles. But this just feels like I'm just replaying the same things. You can see the comment in the upper right there agreeing with me. And as we begin to wrap things up, I'm going to actually show you the final level of this game. Hold on 1 second. Here it is. Stage number 40. Yep, this is it. Or, I'm sorry, I lied. There aren't 40 stages. There's only 34. And again, there's no reason why this is the final level. Again, I am sure they must have ran out of ideas or they ran out of a budget to play this game. And what's very interesting that this level, from a technical standpoint, is simpler than the other levels that we've shown. That level with the lightning, for instance, requires a lot more in terms of the player's skill to get through it. So I don't know if I got through it on this specific take. Now these egg enemies right here, that was introduced for the very first time on the last level. And that's it. What you're seeing right now is the ending of the Blues Brothers. I hope you all appreciate it. Watch. Yep, that's it. They're coming out. Yes, we were inside a jukebox for all this time, but that's the end of the game. It makes no real sense as to why this game ends here. There's no final boss. There's no story. It just comes to an end, and here are the credits. But we're going to wrap things up here for this critical thought. So again, a good level, and by extension a good game, must have a sense of flow and pacing, and each level must have a purpose, a mission statement. Something that's not the cursor that's going, that's the cursor that I had while there. But every level must have a reason to be there. If you're just reusing assets or reusing content, it's going to make your game poorer as a result. And it's better to have very great levels than try to hit the player with like 400 to 500 levels that are all just the same thing. And the Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Blues Brothers are kind of on different sides of the same coin in terms of their problems. Bullwinkle's levels are too long and the pacing is all off, while the Blues Brothers levels are just wildly different and there's just nothing connecting to them. But thank you for watching today's Critical Thought. Be sure to check back for daily discussions on game design as well as more platforming related or level design related videos as I continue to write my book. And check out our Discord and all that great stuff linked in the description. But otherwise, I will see you all for our next design video. If you're looking for another book about game design, be sure to check out my first title, 20 Essential Games to Study, out now. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel linked down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.